The summit on the church and young people is in its final week. The editor of Crux, John Allen, has been leading a team in Rome providing exclusive coverage of the Synod. He joins us now. John, thanks to you guys, we have not missed a single important moment. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you, Liz. Always a pleasure to be with you.
Well, John, as you know, the bishops have discussed a variety of topics, from the clerical sex abuse scandal to women's leadership in the church. We're nearing the next part of the process, which is writing that final document. What will that look like?
Well, actually, Liz, a preliminary draft of the final document was distributed to the bishops taking part in the Synod today. Not just the bishops, of course, but all the other participants. There are about 260 bishops here, but then there are also religious superiors, both men and women, other experts, and about 35 young people taking part in this experience. They all got a kind of preliminary look at that much anticipated final document today. In broad strokes, Liz, it does not contain any major surprises. It basically reflects the tenor of discussions that have taken place in the Synod. So, for instance, there is language on the clerical sexual abuse scandals, but nothing I think anybody who has been following this story will find particularly groundbreaking. It's just a forceful and clear acknowledgement of the gravity of the crisis. There is language about women, mostly calling for further reflection on this issue, and again, how important it is. You have to remember that a synod brings together people from all over the Catholic world. So there was always a kind of, search for the lowest common denominator in these final documents that will support consensus across culture and perspective.
Now, John, the final document is going to be presented on Saturday. Then the bishops will vote on it. As I ask you every time I interview you, what happens next? Where do we go from here?
Well, as with every one of these kinds of big Vatican events, whether it's a World Youth Day or a World Meeting of Families or a Synod of Bishops, where we go from here really doesn't depend on Rome, Liz. It depends on the local church. If a particular bishop set through this experience, picked up some creative ideas about how to reach up to young people, and goes back home determined to implement them in his diocese, that could change a great deal. If another bishop didn't find anything particularly useful here, sort of set through it, and then catches his flight home, and nothing changes in terms of business as usual, then it won't mean a lot. I mean, look, the Vatican is very useful for generating ideas. The application of those ideas, however, depends on the grassroots. And for that, we're just going to have to wait and see what happens once these guys go home.
John, before I let you go, let's talk about one of those ideas. This is the third synod under Francis' papacy. The first two focused on the family. This one, as you've mentioned, emphasized the youth. How will the bishops move that forward in that regard, connecting the youth to the church?
Well, look, Liz, I think if you ask anybody who has taken part of this synod, they will tell you the number one thing that has struck them is how much difference it makes having those 35 young people from all over the world actually inside the Synod Hall, taking part in the discussions in the Synod, taking part in the small working groups, participating as full equals. I mean, my sense, Liz, would be that the kind of revolution here is that up to this point, bishops have been talking about young people. What this Synod has given them is a model of how to talk with young people, how to involve them as protagonists in these kinds of conversations. I think it would be a rare bishop who wouldn't want to go home and apply that in his own backyard. And if that happens on a kind of systematic basis, we could be watching the birth of an entirely new model of what ministry to young adults looks like.
John, always a pleasure. I look forward to the next time, sir.
Thank you, Liz.